This week, Joe, Kendall, and I complete our look at the controversial event Secret Empire. Why didn't it end in the way we all expected? First, we're getting closer to unlocking a new podcast about the manga Fullmetal Alchemist, The Law of Equivalent Exchange. It's a chapter-by-chapter reading of the manga, analyzing how creator Hiromu Arakawa masterfully put together the story of Edward and Alphonse Elric, with commentary on the translation. What are we missing from the original Japanese? Even translation of the sound effects can be a bit tricky. Patrick and I have already started recording the show, and we can't wait for you to hear it. If you're a fan of Fullmetal Alchemist, one of the best manga of the 21st century, pledge now at patreon.com/deconcomics to hear The Law of Equivalent Exchange. This is Tim.
This is Joe.
And this is Kendall.
And this is Deconstructing Comics. Welcome to Deconstructing Comics. This is Tim in Tokyo. Last week, you heard part one of my talk with Joe and Kendall from the Wayne Manor Memoirs podcast, in which we covered the major events of the Captain America Steve Rogers series and got started on Secret Empire. This week, we cover the rest of the event, picking up in the middle of Secret Empire Issue 1. So many of the heroes are hiding in the desert in Nevada, this place they call the Mount. Tony Stark is there, and Mockingbird.
Tony Stark's AI?
So, no, he's not AI yet, because that's something that happens in Civil War II, which happens, let's see. Oh, you're right. Okay, so, yeah, Civil War II has happened by this point.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it is the AI version of Tony Stark, which I don't quite understand how that works, but
me neither.
I have no idea.
I just went with it. Yep.
They said together, yes.
So that was a Bendis thing. We're just going with it.
And then, so we get, Hawkeye, Black Widow, new Giant Man.
Yeah, is Hulk there?
No, Hulk is a plot point later on.
Right, so at this point, Hulk is dead, or at least Banner is dead.
Cho?
I think, Amadeus Cho, I think, might be in this group at the Mount.
Yes, the cool Hulk.
I'm sorry. Yes.
Or as, I forget who calls him this, but Gel Hair Hulk. Taskmaster. Taskmaster and Black Ant are the best comedy duo in the Marvel Universe.
Right,
especially like the end with them.
They have some good lines throughout the series. But so in Vegas, there's this boy named Rayshawn who the champions, they're all involved in this. The champions run into him. And it turns out in issue 2 that he has this flash drive that's data of Selvig's that Rick Jones gave him to give to these Avengers. I don't remember what all was in that, but I think that was how they knew that they needed to find the pieces of the cube.
Right.
I think it's like their location.
It outlined kind of what happened to Captain America, and then the expected locations of the cosmic cube fragments.
Right, that's right. Yeah, so somehow Rick had an idea of where they might be. But now, what was it that happened in Las Vegas that caused Hydra to just destroy the city?
Well, they had been sort of actively supporting the superhero underground. And, not reporting them, giving them haven. And I think it really just turned into a show of force, right? Like, if you keep supporting these heroes, we're going to just we're going to wipe you off the map.
Yeah. So that's kind of the first instance that you see Cap getting pushed beyond his comfort limit. And so he decides that it is the show of force.
Although, well, in issue 2, it points out that Cap let Eliza make that decision and just look the other way.
Right. Yes. What did they say? That he needs to be, I don't know, the symbol, and he needs to let other people do the dirty work for him.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
And then they also kill Rick Jones.
Yeah, Rick is finally executed in issue 1.
They do the.
Is it 1?
It's that Slavo. Las Vegas gets hit, and Rick Jones, I think, gets killed kind of at the same time.
Mm-hmm.
Right. Yep. It's kind of going back and forth. You're right.
Yeah.
So
because they have the dreadnoughts come into Vegas, and they have that little chase scene, and that's part of why they get so upset. Is because this has been posted, and it's giving people the illusion of resistance.
Right, I think it was the Champions, right, when they had found Rayshon and they were flying around in some vehicle, and it damages the Las Vegas sign.
Four.
And like, oh, see, these kids are doing property damage and blah blah blah. So
right.
So let's just blast them all.
I think the Thing is there too.
The Thing is there, yeah. He's and the Human Torch is in New York. And Mr. Fantastic and Invisible Woman are lost in space.
Right.
Oh, that's right. This was during the no FF period.
Yes.
Or because I guess, well, is this after Secret War? I guess it must be. I've lost track.
No, this must have.
No, this was prior to Secret War. I think Secret War is 18. Was it Secret Wars?
Well, there was Secret Wars.
No, Secret Wars was
it was
15.
plural.
No, it's after Secret Wars.
Okay, that's what I thought, because at the end of Secret Wars is when at the end, the Reed
Fantastic
and Sue
Four
and the kids are
like kaput.
out in space, generating new worlds or something, and just Johnny and Ben are on Earth. Okay, I hadn't put that together, but right, that's why Reed and Sue were not in this. So, in issue 2, Tony and Black Widow are arguing about whether they should just get the fragments together of the cube and undo Cap's change, or if they should kill him.
And then we get the lovely Black Widow and kids story arc that goes on for the next 5 issues.
Right. Yeah, she's kind of trying to... Well, she creates a red room and she's trying to train them, but they're not very trainable for assassination, I don't think.
Nope.
Now they keep trying to save this simulation, and it keeps blowing up literally in their face.
And
I finally remembered Amadeus Cho's actual name. He's the Totally Awesome Hulk.
Totally awesome, yeah.
Yeah, the Totally Awesome Hulk.
Okay. So some of the Avengers, let's see, Scott Lang, Clint, Tony, Bobby, and Quicksilver, Pietro, go to Montana and find Sam Wilson, where I guess I did not read the Captain America Sam Wilson series, but I guess that by this point he had just kind of given up on being Cap. And he's involved in, I guess, like helping people escape from Hydra America.
That sounds right, yeah.
Canada.
Across the border.
And they want him to get them out so that they can go around the world looking for these pieces of the cube.
They want to go on a globe-trotting adventure.
The issue ends in the woods, and you see this mysterious Steve Rogers appear.
With the blonde beard.
Yeah, bearded Steve Rogers.
in what might be my favorite art in the entire arc.
It's so fantastic because it's so pastoral given what had come before it, and it's so soft, and it definitely takes you out of whatever you were just reading, and it's its very own thing. And I was like, huh, all right, I guess this is happening.
Yeah, and all the scenes in that world are by the same artist. I'm not sure who that artist is, but
Luckily, they're by the same artist. Otherwise, it might not have the same intended effect.
right. I don't know. I'll insert that information later. Those pages were drawn by Rod Reyes.
See, shirtless.
Yeah, there's so many artists, it's hard to know who was responsible for what.
Yeah, and you have to go to that big splash page at the beginning of the book, the trade, to find it all, and I don't like when they do that. Then I inserted here Cap 17, which is not... It's somewhat interesting to the story. It's the issue where Cap is being interviewed by this female journalist who had also interviewed him during and after the first Civil War. And she's told not to ask him about Vegas, but anything else is okay, which is a little surprising. It's more freedom of the press than I would expect. And she asked him about the Inhumans being kept in camps and about how the mutants have their own country now in what was Northern California. They call it New Tien. I didn't get where that... What was Old Tien? I couldn't find anything on the web. Why is it new? What does Tien mean? I don't know.
Yeah, my X-Men knowledge is so bad.
Yeah, I haven't read the X-Men in quite a while.
And it seems like every major story arc with them has been about them getting a home. So here's New Tien, which I didn't know about, and then they were living off the coast of California for a bit, and now they're on Krakoa. It's like, okay, pick a place, pick a lane.
Now, we had seen, I think it's in this issue that Cap, I think there's a flashback or something of Cap talking with Magneto, and telling him, that the mutants can go there and start their own country, but Hydra will consider it illegal. But they won't do anything about it for years. So you got some time. So enjoy your country. And so in this interview, he's just saying the mutants took it illegally, but that's not strictly true. And of course, the interviewer eventually gets riled up and mentions Vegas, and then she's thrown in jail.
Yep. Did you read that one, Kendall?
I believe so.
It's you would remember the cover because it's the first time that you see him in his like Hydra
Green
ambassador uniform.
Yeah.
It's a great cover.
I think
that
was
one.
included in the trade.
So we see this bearded Steve again in issue 3, and he doesn't remember anything. He doesn't remember who he is. He just sort of woke up in the forest, and he feels like he needs to be someplace, but that's all he remembers at this point. Hydra goes to Atlantis to get a piece of the cube, but it turns out to be fake. Boomerang helps Black Widow and Maria Hill meet up. And then it's revealed that the Punisher has joined Hydra, or he's working for Hydra.
I thought, later on they explain that, right? Why he decided to join Hydra. But I appreciate, and I don't read the Punisher very often, but that was his same deal in Civil War.
Civil War, yeah.
Yeah, is that the Punisher decided to work for Cap and follow, all of Cap's rules because he looks up to him so much. And I appreciate that they keep coming back to that idea that, okay, I'm going to join Hydra because Cap's in Hydra, and that's what I should do.
Mm-hmm. I've got Cap 18 here in my notes, where Cap is at the United Nations and gives this bullying speech. Then Black Panther appears on a video screen and complains about how Hydra keeps trespassing on Wakandan soil. And he says, why don't you come to Wakanda yourself? So Cap's angry about that. Okay, so actually, yeah, it's a little weird because that issue and Secret Empire 4 both end with Namor coming and giving Cap a piece of the cube.
Right.
So it's kind of unclear, like, what was Cap doing before that? Was he giving a speech to the United Nations, or was he involved in issue 4?
Yeah, unfortunately, and I'm not sure what the deal is with this, but the Cap series kind of becomes irrelevant once Secret Empire happens. Like, over the course of however long it took Secret Empire to come out, there's only 3 Cap issues that come out.
Yeah, 17 through 19. Secret Empire 4 is kind of my favorite. This is the dinner with Ultron.
Yeah, that's also my favorite issue.
I mean, it's got a lot of humor in it, and I think part of the reason I like it is because it has so little to do with Secret Empire.
Yeah. My dinner with Ultron.
Yeah, it's just crazy Ultron / Hank Pym combination ranting about just nonsense.
Yeah, and how the Avengers were his family, and he misses having them all together. And he's wearing that Kiss the Overlord apron.
Right.
Yeah, I enjoyed that one.
Oof. It's a cool little book that sort of has something to tie in with Civil War or Secret Empire, but is really its own thing. Mm-hmm. It doesn't further the plot in any meaningful way. You get some exploration,
a little bit,
but
because Ultron has a piece of the cube, and he gives it to the underground heroes. But then Namor shows up with his part that he gives to Cap at the end, so it ends up being kind of a draw.
Yeah.
And because the underground guys are celebrating they got it, and then I think they see on TV about Namor's shard, and Hercules says, "I'll put back the celebratory snacks."
That was also a great line. Yeah, yes. that whole issue, and for the people that have been paying attention to the Avengers history, you get all of the pop culture beats about Hank Pym and his one scene where he beat his wife that is now in the consciousness of comic book fans everywhere.
Yeah, it's like the only thing that comes to mind with Hank Pym in the comics now.
Oh, Hank Pym? Yeah, the guy that beat his wife? Yeah. That guy.
Yeah, that guy.
And of course that comes up in this issue.
Didn't he also create Ultron or something?
Right. He beat his wife. Don't worry about Ultron.
Yeah.
But maybe part of the reason I like this issue was the nostalgia of it, because I was an Avengers reader regularly around late 70s, early 80s, and I think that's right about the time that he hit Janet. So yeah, I think it kind of took me back to that period of Avengers, when they had the mansion and all that cool stuff.
I like that he's got his own Jarvis. Yep. This was probably the most fun out of all the issues, because that was something that this story was lacking, right? It's not meant to be fun. It's meant to be dramatic, but here, right in the kind of almost right in the middle, we have a dinner with Ultron.
Right. I think I would say to listeners, even if you don't care about the event, at least get issue 4. Read issue 4. Yeah,
you'll enjoy it.
Yeah. Even with the story, there's some fun beats, because it's kind of their adventure, and they're going off, and then they run into the Hydra, and they have a little fight, and then Ultron steps in and breaks it up by like gassing everybody or something. I don't remember. And then they all kind of wake up at the dinner table, and you're like, oh, this took a drastically different turn than what you were expecting.
Mm-hmm. Okay, issue 5. So the underground team goes to Wakanda, but Black Panther doesn't want to give the fragment to anybody. He says, this is Wakandan property. I won't give it to either group.
Yeah, go find the shards and bring them to me, and then we'll make the cosmic cube.
You got the scene with Hank McCoy talking with Cap out next to the Thor hammer, and so Hank is there as ambassador from New Tien, and Cap is trying to get him to give up the fragment that they have. The underground team goes back to the Mount, but then the Mount is attacked. Now, this was a point that I was fuzzy on, and I'm not sure if it's just my boneheadedness as a reader or what, but there's a page just as the Hydra ships are coming. It's Sorrentino again, and because Sorrentino sometimes does these really strange, weirdly designed pages where kind of the design, I think, detracts from the storytelling. And it's this spread where there are a bunch of panels that are kind of in an arc above the Hydra ships that take up 2/3 of the spread. And in one of the panels, there's just like the bottom half of a face saying, "This is Mockingbird. We're back at base. We only got the 2 fragments. Proceed with the operation." And I think as I was reading it, I just didn't grasp that, and I didn't know what was going to happen, and I was in Comixology guided view, so I couldn't see the ships down below. And I didn't get Mockingbird being involved in it at all. In the next issue, so after Hydra destroys the Mount, Tony Stark talks about, he realizes that there's a Hydra person in their midst, and after some arguing about it, then Scott Lang says that it was him. Because his daughter had been found by Hydra in Paris, and so he had to cooperate. And it's never discussed again that I could find in any book that I read that apparently Mockingbird had sold them out and why she did that. And I didn't even realize it was her until I was reading the Wikipedia summary, and it said it was Mockingbird. Like, huh? And I went back and looked, like, oh, okay.
See, I thought that it was... Mockingbird, I thought, was in communication with Maria Hill.
Right.
Not with Hydra.
That's what I thought, too.
Right. Okay, yeah, I saw that on another page today. But Maria Hill wasn't in charge of Hydra,
so I think
S.H.I.E.L.D. anymore.
No, I think that Maria was kind of... I think there's definitely some stuff that happens outside of this story in one of the crossovers with Maria, but I think Maria is leading her own sort of revolution against Cap, and so I think Mockingbird is just telling her, "No, we didn't get it, so just keep doing what you're doing."
Yeah, near the end of the Cap series, or just before Secret Empire starts, Maria finds out about Cap being Hydra. And so she's a little bit ahead of the curve on that. Okay, then what's on Wikipedia is wrong. I'll have to go in and edit it, because the Wikipedia writer assumed that Mockingbird had told Hydra to come and destroy the base. But okay, that makes more sense.
Yeah, I mean, there could be something we're missing outside of Secret Empire, but probably. Within these pages, she says that she's contacting Maria Hill.
Okay, so the Hydra informant really is Ant-Man, apparently. Then.
Yeah. Which he claims later that he has to atone for.
Right.
Yeah. Okay.
And was there somebody on Cap's side? That was a plant?
Oh, yeah, it was Ant-Man.
Yeah.
Ant-Man. No. The opposite way. A plant in Cap's midst. I don't remember.
Viper?
There seems to be like one.
Viper was kind of working for Black Widow.
That's what it was. Okay.
Yeah, okay. So the bearded Steve has found these 2 friends who maybe are meant to resemble Sam and Bucky.
Yeah, I think so.
100%, yeah.
But then they are attacked in the forest by the Red Skull. In the issues after this, the other 2 guys, they kind of disappear.
Yeah, that's right.
And Red Skull is beating up Bearded Cap. I didn't quite understand why.
You don't understand why they disappeared or why Cap was getting beat up?
Why was Cap getting beat up? What was the point of that?
So what I got from it was this Red Skull has this idea that they're trapped, and the only way to set themselves free is to die. But he is a little sadistic, to say the least, in his methods and his ideology. And so, because he calls him Air... Does he call him Air Rogers? Or
Air Rogers, yeah.
Yeah. And so, like, he has some sort of recognition of this character, and so I think it's playing off of that sort of hatred, too. Mm-hmm. But in a weird way, he's saying that he's going to free him as well from this... whatever. This purgatory, I guess. Mm. That's what I got.
Okay. Right. So in issue 6, we get a bit of a view of what's going on in Lower Manhattan. I think more of that played out in some of the other books, like Doctor Strange, I think I didn't reread that, but I remember reading it at the time.
And this, the behavior, one of the things I really liked about this is the behavior of the Kingpin. Yeah. Which leads to him being the mayor of New York after this ends.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I really like this issue. I think, is this the one where you get Cloak and Dagger a lot?
I think so, yeah, because Dagger is the only source of light in this black, what do they call it, Dark Force bubble.
That's right.
Yeah. And so... with the kind of the hero aspect and then the Kingpin aspect, I really liked the idea of him maneuvering and making his plans. And, you know, why did you save us? Why are you giving food? Who is Peter come talk to him? Somebody
it's
comes
Daredevil.
To talk to him. Oh, it's Daredevil. Yeah. Mm-hmm. And asks him why. And he's like, you know, after this is over, and it will be over, who are they going to remember? Who gave them the ability to survive? Yep. And so I was like, oh, that's brilliant.
Kingpin.
Yeah, I forgot about Matt.
I like when they play Kingpin as 10 steps ahead of the game.
Yeah.
Kingpin also sings Tomorrow in this issue.
Which is very funny. The sun will come out tomorrow while they're all in the darkness. So good.
Is that after he saves the family?
I think so.
It's after he talks to Daredevil.
That's right. Yes, I did like. Yeah, Kingpin is not one of my favorites, but I liked him a lot in this very, very minor role.
So the attack on the mound is still underway, but the heroes are in kind of a safe area of it so far. So Tony's more concerned with rooting out the spy. So that we just talked about happens, and then the Odin son lets them escape on their jet.
Yeah, but not before we get Captain America releasing the now alive for a short bit Hulk on him.
Yeah.
The lead up to that was pretty great too.
Yeah, that conversation he's having.
Yeah, and you don't know with who, and then the panel shifts or whatever, and you see Bruce, and you're like, oh, you know, they sent you away, they did all this stuff to you, just sort of playing that game again.
And then the the bit where he's like, yeah, I'm gonna have to pass, and Cap goes, yeah, I wasn't talking to you, Bruce.
Right.
Right. Hulk is fine with it.
Hulk's ready to smash.
Is this where we get the little clobber in time?
Right,
because Thing comes in and fights with Hulk.
And I don't know when Hawkeye killed the Hulk. I don't know
Civil War II.
It was Civil War II.
Okay. Issue 3 or 4.
But the fact that they go through and show you those little pieces of that as it's happening was like, oh, okay. I didn't know what was going on, but I have enough pieces to make it work.
Yeah, the one time they kind of inject some old continuity in there without you having to actually know everything about what happened in
20 years
ago. 6 things ago, 6 crossovers ago.
So there's been some discussion through this that the Chitauri will be attracted to attack a place if there are Chitauri eggs there. Chitauri queen eggs, they say. So I guess the Red Ghost had planted some Chitauri eggs like in Montana or something. There's a scene of that in the Cap series, but it's not really explained what's going on there.
Right.
And we also didn't mention that Cap killed Red Ghost and the Super Apes in order to take over their hideout, which was kind of a surprise. Let's see, so in issue 6, Nat and her team have kind of liberated this sick old man who turns out to be the Inhuman Mosaic, who can possess people. And so he can make Hydra soldiers shoot each other and so forth. So this is all in the service of Natasha's plan to kill Cap. Mm-hmm. This is issue 7 now. And as she's with Miles in her van. And so there's been this vision that happened during Civil War II that Miles would kill Captain America. And of course, it didn't make any sense to anyone before they knew that he was Hydra. I guess this vision was produced by this guy Ulysses, who was, I guess, another Inhuman, who could kind of predict the future.
He was like a Minority Report as a person.
Okay.
Right. And then, because he predicted one thing, and then that was what the Civil War was about between Carol and Tony was this kid and his abilities, because he predicted one thing right, but subsequent predictions never came to be. And then at the end of that, he just goes away.
Never to be seen again.
What a resolution. Yeah.
And so Natasha intentionally traps Miles in her van because she doesn't want him involved in the killing of Cap. She's going to shoot him.
Yeah.
But Miles manages to break out.
And I love the little meta commentary he has with himself. Like, oh gosh, I have to guess the password, but that image has to come to pass. So I guess anything is the password.
Yeah, whatever I guess is the password.
And then he's just the next scene is him out. You don't even know.
Right, we don't even know what he guessed.
Yeah, that was really well done.
Punisher shows up and fights with Natasha as she's trying to get set up to shoot Cap while he gives a speech in front of the Capitol.
Get the modified skull logo.
Right, yeah. The combination of the Punisher logo and the Hydra logo. Octopus with big teeth.
Yeah. And this is Sorrentino, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, see, that's when I think his art works really well, and it's very striking. But in some of the other stuff earlier, it doesn't quite work as well. But when you get a character like the Punisher, and it's that sort of below perspective, so he's more imposing than he would be otherwise, because you're looking at him from Natasha's perspective. It's brilliant.
Yeah, I like that 2-page spread. And then the one where she throws the knives through his leg. Both of those are very good scenes.
Then Miles arrives. He and Cap fight. Natasha tries to break it up. And she ends up dead, apparently.
Yeah, she gets her neck broken.
Neck broken by Cap.
Okay. And Cap is also seemingly unconscious. And Miles starts to go ahead with the killing as envisioned, where he's got this piece of wreckage shoved through his chest. But the new Wasp, Nadia, shows up and talks him out of it. And so later, Cap is talking about how everything's starting to go wrong. He doesn't know how to stop it. And he wanted to save all these people who had died, Natasha and Bucky. Bucky is thought to be dead. Turns out he's not. But Rick is dead, Jack Flag is dead, and then Sharon tries to kill him, but she can't bring herself to do it.
And we later find out in a plot point that seems important, but maybe doesn't get enough time, that the reason that particular fate of him being impaled didn't happen is because Cap had a fragment of the cosmic cube and used it to have that reality not happen.
Yeah.
So I guess to have Miles listen to reason, or to have Miles be distracted or something.
Yeah. Because I guess as shards, they still have some power, but it's very limited.
Yeah.
And it only happens within a very small window. I don't know if that's like, a 6 meter diameter or something, but yeah.
Yeah, well, I think
because that comes into play later.
Later on, Tony is testing that theory, so he wishes for a birthday cake, and then someone gives him a birthday cake, and like, oh yeah, it worked. So they know that it has some limited power, just a piece of it.
Yeah, and then I wish to be a real boy.
Yeah, birthday cake he can't blow out the candles on.
Yep.
So back to Red Skull and Bearded Steve. They're fighting, and Steve manages to kind of throw himself and Skull off of a cliff into the water. So now they're in the water at the end of the issue. That's issue 7.
And then we also get the return of Falcon Cap.
Right, yeah. Sam has decided he's willing to step up again. So, and I had Cap 19 in here. Let's skip that. Then the Captain America Sam Wilson series, number 25, which is in the Secret Empire trade. Cap declares war on Wakanda and on Yutian.
And beats them both, like, single-handed, like, easily.
Yes.
Sam gives a speech in his Falcon Cap costume. Let's liberate the imprisoned Inhumans. Oh, and then Barf shows up again. And Barf is able to materialize anything that he thinks of by puking it up. And so he pukes up a piece of the cube. That's what Tony uses to wish for a birthday cake. And because when the Mount was attacked, then Hydra took both of the fragments they had. But
yeah, this is one of the most ridiculous things that I've ever seen in a comic book, and I loved it. I love that his power is that he barfs things up, and just Cosmic Cube is no exception.
Yeah, because in the very beginning, his kid brother wants him to get him a Captain America lunchbox. And so, like, he barfs it up, and then he's immediately captured by Hydra agents.
Yep.
And then you see that later on with him doing the cube as well, or the fragment.
Yeah, this is in Cap 25 is where the whole birthday cake thing happens. Namor is wishing that he hadn't given Cap the piece of the cube, but then it's revealed that Bucky is with him. So Bucky had apparently been killed at the late in the Cap series by being strapped to a rocket and shot off into somewhere.
Atlantis, apparently.
Yeah. Okay, Secret Empire 8. Sam tries to break both the bubble and the shield, but he's shot down by Hydra. He has to get, like, in between the two.
I think he has to get high enough up that it would actually work, the fragment, for his wish to kind of work.
Yeah.
I don't remember her name. The one that got taken out in the very beginning.
Quasar.
So it has something to do with her as well.
Right. Well, this is the issue where she wakes up and she manages to break through the shield. And I think the heroes in Manhattan do something to get rid of the bubble.
Doctor Strange gives up his place in...
No, Maria Hill shoots Blackout in the head. That's how they get out of New York.
That's right.
No, I know, but he also, Doctor Strange, because it's hilarious, he went to this library to get a spell that doesn't end up working, and he loses his place wherever it's at.
Then Sanctum Sanctorium.
Oh, yeah, he has to give up his house or something, yeah.
And then Maria Hill just goes in and shoots Blackout.
Yeah, this is
which is kind of a touching scene.
It is. This is the hero's return issue.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Right. And another one where it's like, we built hope, and then the hope fell apart, and then we built hope again. And then,
And then it rose from the ocean, and you see Falcon coming out with the cube after being shot down.
Right. Yeah, this is kind of, we're into Act 3 here.
Right. We're getting the band back together.
Right.
And at the end of the issue, Real Steve finds Kobik sitting on a rock crying, and he recognizes her. And so then in the next issue, number 9, she kind of helps him to remember somewhat of who he is and what happened before.
She's like apologizing because she was led down this incorrect path. The Red Man told her that this was the way.
Right, we didn't talk about that, but yeah, the reason that in Standoff she had made him Hydra was that Red Skull had found her before and realized she was the Cube, and the creepy panels of him reading her Hydra bedtime stories.
Yes.
And read it again.
Yep,
so she was convinced that Hydra was good, and so to make Steve better, he should be Hydra. But she was too naive to understand what that really meant.
Right.
And so, yeah, this is the issue 9 where it's revealed that, or Real Steve, Bearded Steve, decides he must be the memory of someone who Kobik knew. So he's just her memory, and he tries to get her to make him real again, but she's too scared, and she runs away.
Yeah, and then the heroes, they start taking the fight to Hydra, where...
Mm-hmm. And, yeah, the Odin son finally has had enough, and he turns on Cap.
And then the mutants get in there, Magneto comes and takes out a helicarrier.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
But Hydra now has all but one cube piece, and that's enough to weaponize it.
Right.
So we're building up to the climax here.
Just on that note of the Odin son having enough, right? He hits the ground, it makes that big boom, and then Taskmaster and Black Ant are... You hear that boom?
Right.
Yep. I know that boom. That's the we're going to lose boom. And then what is it? He follows that up with, well, now it's you come to that time in every mercenary's life where you have to make an important decision. There's really only one thing you can do. Switch sides.
Yeah.
I love
that's
these
when they
two.
let the heroes out who were captured.
They're so good
and then
together.
promptly get knocked out.
Nick Spencer used them in the Spider-Man stuff too, that Kraven story arc.
Uh-huh.
And they're delightful in that as well. He must have a real soft spot for them.
Yeah. Coming up, unexpected cap-on-cap action. Why not just use the cube to put everything back? How Hydra Cap became less interesting as Secret Empire wore on. Or are we thinking about it wrong? I'm continuing to republish classic episodes of Deconstructing Comics in reverse order, unlocked by our patrons' generous support. This week I'll republish number 56 from January 1st, 2007, in which Brandon and I discuss Fables, Legends in Exile, and Fables, 1001 Nights of Snowfall by Bill Willingham and various artists. Find the classic episodes on our Facebook and Twitter feeds by choosing the earliest months listed in the sidebar pull-down menu at deconstructingcomics.com, in publicly available posts on our Patreon page, or in the Patreon smartphone app. Classic episodes have been unlocked back to number 46, so classic episode re-releases will stop in 10 weeks, unless we meet our next Patreon goal. And you can help make our Full Metal Alchemist podcast a reality as well. Check out all our goals and help us reach them at patreon.com/deconcomics.
Are you Batman? Oh, you must be, because that's Robin. Hi, Robin.
Yes, Batman and Robin are here, and Tim and Paul are also here to evaluate the Batman TV show that took the nation by storm in 1966.
How in the name of purple wombats did they manage that?
To the Bat Polls podcast looks at the writing, the music, the guest stars, how the show fit into its times, and much more. Look for it wherever you get podcasts or at tothebatpolls.libsyn.com. Why, listening to the Bat Polls even makes Season 3 enjoyable.
Gosh, yes, Batman. When you put it that way.
All right, so Secret Empire 10. Cap has got this well, I don't know if I got the order right here, but so Falcon acts as if he's seen the light and he gives Cap the last fragment of the cube. I'm not sure if before or after that Cap succeeds in using the cube to remake America.
He starts that process. Yeah.
It was always run by Hydra. And you see all the statues and stuff in Washington changing into these other, unrecognizable people.
Yes. Is this when he has his suit?
The Iron Man, Hydra Iron Man armor.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, where he puts the cube in the middle.
Yep.
And I think that's what allows him to start to change things.
Yes.
Right.
And then that's when Sam shows up.
Yeah. He got the shield or the cube in his chest. Falcon gives him the last piece, but then Ant-Man shrinks down with Bucky. They go into the completed cube and they fish out the real Steve and Kobik, or the bearded Steve, the memory Steve, whatever you want to call him. And everything reverts to how it was before Hydra Cap used the cube a bit earlier. So we got real Cap and Hydra Cap now fighting.
Let me just say, I did not see that coming. That Hydra Cap was gonna still exist, and that they were gonna make a new old version of Captain America. We could probably talk more about thoughts at the end, but I was not ready for a Captain America on Captain America fight.
Yeah, I have some thoughts about that too, but yeah, and everybody in America is watching this on TV or streaming, and with excellent camera work, it looks like worthy of an NFL game.
Falcon's just in there with his just get it real close. Nice.
Right. So they have this fight, and then Hydra Cap finds that he can no longer. He's lost the cube. I didn't get that in my notes, but now he can no longer pick up the hammer, and the hammer has changed back now to the original inscription, and good Cap can pick it up. That's been established a long time ago that Cap is worthy of the power of Thor.
Oh, that's I love that scene too, because
that splash page.
Hydra Cap, Hydra Cap goes over and he's like, I'm just going to end this. And he's struggling with it. And then Steve, real Steve, bearded Steve comes over and he's like, hey, let me see if I can give it a shot, son. And he just, whoop, lifts it right up. I was like, yes.
Yeah, that's the cathartic scene.
And then you get the flashback of why Hydra Cap was able to lift it, because Madam Hydra?
Right.
Was that her name?
Mm-hmm.
Madam Hydra was able to kind of at least give the illusion of, if not changing the hammer itself, giving the illusion that he was able to lift it.
Okay. Contrary to my expectations, yeah, Natasha and Rick and so forth, they're all still dead.
Yeah.
And Vegas is still trashed, yeah.
Right. So then we have Secret Empire Omega, where quote-unquote real Steve visits Hydra Steve in prison. And as I mentioned before, Hydra Steve says that he didn't take power illegally, although I still feel like he kind of did. Becoming head of Hydra, fine. S.H.I.E.L.D. Act, fine. But he became president, kind of. Now, this comic has Bucky in Madripoor witnessing a political assassination, and he thinks it looks like the work of the Black Widow.
Right.
Which kind of raises the idea that she's not dead.
Yeah, and which is further confirmed by the fact that she was, not only did she just finish up a miniseries, but she was not gone very long.
Okay, so she appeared again after this.
Yes.
Because I was starting to wonder, like, were they trying to make the status quo of the comics more like the movies? Because, you know, S.H.I.E.L.D. no longer exists in the movies, and now it no longer exists in the comics either. It's been disbanded after this. And I wondered if, since Black Widow died in Endgame, spoiler alert, that they were going to have her be dead in the comics too. But in the comics, you can't kill anybody. I mean, I'm just waiting for Rick to come back at some point, and
yeah, especially with there being a Black Widow movie on the horizon, right? Of course, she has to come back because they have to cash in on that.
Yeah,
speculation. Can I get those speculation dollars?
Yeah, man, there is some great Sorrento page layouts in this book. They really, to increase the interestingness of the conversation between Cap and Hydra Cap, they just let him run wild.
Yeah, this is one of my favorite issues, just because you get a good look at both Caps and how they are so much alike, and yet just those tiny little tweaks, which is what made me like this more than I had previously given it credit for, or wanting to kind of jump in, is you get, you know, his perspective, and it's not that far off of what a lot of superheroes are. It's just kind of tilted in a way that tilted towards fascism.
Mm-hmm. So what do you think about the way that Cap was, or good Cap, is brought back here? I mean, I think we were all surprised to see this Cap on Cap battle.
I mean, I don't love the Cosmic Cube. It's one of those things in Marvel continuity that I kind of wish we would stop playing with, just because it's too powerful in terms of what it can do to the Marvel universe. But it was certainly better than just having Kobik come out and clap her hands and everything is better now, right?
Yeah.
She kind of does get to do that, but instead we just get a good and an evil Captain America, which is nice because Hydra Cap will come back and, you know, he'll become the new Red Skull or something, and that'll be fun.
Well, I didn't love that idea, but I kind of thought there was a justification for it. I can't remember where I wrote this down, but I thought, like, if we had a story where Hydra Cap either his good side kind of wins over, and, you know, the foot dragging that we saw before, like if he finally says, "Oh, I was wrong," and Hydra go away, or if Kobik comes out and unhydrifies him, how do you convince everyone else in the Marvel Universe that Cap is good again?
Yeah.
But if you can see this visual evidence of Cap fighting Cap, that makes it a little bit easier to convince people, you know, the other characters in the Marvel Universe, that was the bad Cap and this is the good Cap that we knew before. So I think if you look at it that way, you kind of had to have some way to, because otherwise everybody in the Marvel Universe would keep regarding Cap as being Hydra, and they wouldn't believe him if he said that he was back to being good. I mean, to some extent, I guess that's played out in the comics anyway, where a lot of people don't trust him, but some people do.
Yeah, and is just an interesting way to bring somebody back, unlike, you know, as what Joe was saying, snapping them back into existence. I thought the way that Cap had to be brought back out, by having Bucky go with Ant-Man and kind of coaxing him back in to whatever reality is, I thought that was really interesting and unique, because in that world you still see Steve being Steve, trying to comfort a child in need. And so when he sees his friend, you know, grab my hand, whatever, and then you get that moment of his return, I don't know if there's I don't know if it can be more impactful than that, than having that history with his friend and that history with just his character and his personality, and then seeing the opposite of what has happened. And so having the dichotomy between, especially visually, the color palettes. You know, you've got Star Spangled Bannered Cap versus green and gold Hydra Cap. And so the distinction there is also really great. But like you're saying, if you don't do that, if you don't have that dichotomy, it's going to be really hard for any writer or anybody in that universe to go, yeah, I don't, you got me once, you know, I don't know if I can trust you anymore.
Yeah, so Spencer said in an interview with CBR that he didn't want there to be no long-term consequences from the story. He wanted it to mean something, you know, long-term, and not just, oh, here's the cosmic cube and we fixed everything. But, you know, this is Marvel Comics, so I'm kind of like, I feel like all the permanent consequences are eventually going to be undone. I mean, they've already fixed Las Vegas. There was a story called, I forgot what it was called now. It was called Damnation. Doctor Strange regenerated Las Vegas. I did read that a while back. I'd kind of forgotten about it, but that like Las Vegas had descended into some kind of hell that he had to sort of rescue it from.
So Las Vegas.
So Las Vegas is back. And I think Rick is probably going to come back if he hasn't already. Now, Red Ghost and the Super Apes, they were always lame in my opinion, so we don't really need Red Ghost and the Super Apes.
But don't worry, they'll be back regardless.
Probably.
Somebody will retcon them
with bionic parts.
Yes. Or in a I had cloned myself for just such an occasion.
yeah, that's more likely. Yeah, it'll be clones that he secretly made ahead of time. So, yeah, I mean it's hard to imagine that, you know, the consequences not being undone by other writers who said, oh, this is cool, you know, let's bring back Rick, or let's bring back Red Ghost, or whoever else died in the story that's currently still dead. I guess Natasha's already back, but
what I will say is I did start picking up Cap after, and Mark Waid was writing him after Spencer's run. And basically, at least the first arc is him going kind of across country, trying to rebuild his name and his image. And that's kind of come even to the current Cap by Tanahashi Coates. Is that right? Coates?
I think it's Coates.
And he's still kind of doing that, trying to rebuild his name after all of this. So if not in a grand Marvel universe scheme, at least there's been some lasting effects with the character and his reputation.
Captain America has had a very strange arc over the last 10 years.
How so?
Well, just when was so Civil War was like 2007. And right after that he died, and then he was gone, and then he turns out he was really lost in time. And so then he's back, and then he gets aged, and then he becomes Hydra Cap, and now he's trying to, it felt like they didn't really know what to do with him for a long time, and were having a hard time making him a compelling character to match what was maybe going on in the films.
In the movies, yeah. And I think they did a pretty good job from Remender's run up until, Coates now. I've actually read most of it. I didn't read a whole lot of the Captain America Steve Rogers stuff, but I've read pretty much everything after, up to the last little bit of the current stuff. And they've done a really interesting job of making him more relatable. It's kind of that Superman problem where he's so good that how do you make his stories interesting? Well, you got to kind of bring him down a little bit. And so that's what they've done, and now they're working at it. I don't know if he'll ever get back to that I don't remember what his nickname is, if it's somebody else. But I don't know if he'll reach that level again, and if he does, how then that affects, whatever. Is Hydra Cap going to come back and take over? Is he going to, trap real Steve in his basement? And
I'm ready.
I don't know.
I'm ready for Hydra Cap Red Skull. I'm calling it now.
Well,
is he going to just wear a mask?
Logical, since Red Skull is apparently currently dead, or at least as of the end of the story. So that would make sense, maybe for Hydra Cap to become the new Red Skull.
And then he knows he is Steve Rogers. How can they beat each other without Thor's hammer?
Yeah. Red Skull had a little piece of Charles Xavier's brain still left in him, and he's existing on a timeline and universe unbeknownst to anybody.
And if we want to get crazy, Charles Xavier's back now, and they can make like clones of him. So, it's easy to get his brain now.
We can all have Xavier's brain.
Yeah. It's like, I think I saw one on eBay for $50,000. I mean,
there you go. That's a steal. That's how regular Cap's going to have to beat Hydra Cap without Mjolnir. He's just going to be wielding Charles Xavier's brain.
One can get Charles Xavier's brain, and the other one can get Magneto's brain with the helmet. There you go. Also, just as a funsie, in order to beat Psychic Red Skull, Deadpool had to get Magneto's helmet, and he slaps it on Rogue, and Rogue just obliterates the Red Skull. It's very satisfying.
I see. One thing I did want to mention about this, though, that foot dragging of Hydra Cap, that he was delaying executions and deferring violent decisions to other people. I kind of wish that had continued through the series, but as it goes, he becomes more completely evil. It felt like. I felt like he kind of lost a dimension as it went on.
Kendall and I were actually talking about that, and that was, I was telling him that as I went through Secret Empire, I became less and less invested because the things that I liked were the likable Captain America that was doing bad things. And so when he became less and less likable, I was more, okay, now he's just a villain, right? It would have been nice to have him be more likable throughout the story. But Kendall, you had some ideas on this.
Yeah, it just kind of goes back to that idea of him really wanting to do the right thing, just in a different way. And yet he's still feeling this pull from everybody around him. And all these little things keep happening that keeps, taking a little bit of that humanity, a little bit of that charm or that appeal away, little by little by little. Mm-hmm. And you end up getting sort of his gradual descent into more fascistic Hydra that we know terms. And so I was okay with it as a story arc. I don't know if you can have him be totally likable and evil, especially in a comic where you're going to reintroduce Captain America, proper Captain America. So from that, I get it. If you were going to run with this and maybe not bring real Cap back for a while, I totally would be down with having him be more likable. But as it stands,
I'd have been okay with that if instead this had been a shorter story arc and for a year Hydra won. I'd be okay. Maybe a permanent change. Well, not a long-term change to the status quo for a Marvel season, so to speak.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, like in all the books?
Yeah.
All the books, it would be a Hydra world?
Yeah.
I've always thought, though,
I don't know.
it would be annoying to be a Marvel writer and have all these ideas, and then somebody tells you, no, you got to do it this way now because of this crossover event. Like,
Right. Oh. Yeah, I saw a little bit of that with Axis.
Axis. Okay.
Yeah, that garbage. I was not a fan. But when the kind of the new status quo happened with the 8 issues that it ran, I was picking up Thor at the time because Jason Aaron, and he didn't change at all. He just kept right on with Jane Foster.
Although without Axis, we wouldn't have gotten evil Tony Stark, which was hilarious.
It was okay.
It was
Superior Iron Man was okay.
It was quite fun.
I have all of them. It was not my favorite, but some of it was good. It's kind of like everything. Some of it's good, some of it's not.
Yeah. Okay, well, as I figured this would be, it was kind of a marathon, but thanks for walking through the whole thing with me.
Yeah, my pleasure.
Oh, yes. Big Cap fan, so I'm glad that I got to talk about it with somebody other than Joe. No offense, buddy.
Hey, I understand.
Okay, and where can people find your podcast?
Sure. So we are Wayne Manor Memoirs. You can find us at Wayne Manor Memoirs on Facebook, or you can check us out at WM Memoirs. Nope. Kendall, you're the Twitter guy.
Memoirs.
W Memoirs.
W Memoirs.
On Twitter.
W Memoirs. Just so Wayne Memoirs. Okay. W.
And we release.
I couldn't choose.
Yeah. We release every other Friday, and we rotate through a variety of mostly Bat topics, story arcs, characters. We're doing some creative teams this season. We do a little bit of the 66 show, not, of course, as much as To the Bat Polls, but
yeah.
I have a special place in my heart for Adam West, and Kendall doesn't, so I have to force him to watch it.
Unless that's being channeled through Diedrich Bader.
Oh, I do love Diedrich Bader. Diedrich Bader Batman. But, just as kind of my closing thoughts for Secret Empire, I thought that it was a very interesting story, and I think that people would definitely benefit from reading it. Not, of course, without its flaws. We talked about the art, and sort of some of the weird
giant tonal shifts
and some of the holes in some of the logic, but it was still a really good run. Tim, I appreciate you for giving me the motivation to go and read this, because it was forever on the to-do pile.
That's the only way I get anything read, is to say I'm going to do a podcast about it. Now I have to read the whole thing twice.
Yep. Thanks. Don't read Batman Fortunate Son. No matter what, don't read it.
Nope. Or Year 2 for that matter.
I think I listened to your episode about that. Yeah. So another case of you read it so we don't have to.
There you go.
He's got it.
Kendall, any last words?
I had a great time with this comic. I thought the introduction to an evil Cap and the way he comes to power is just incredibly interesting. To see how he's shifting all the pieces, and then to see what happens after that, to the point of him becoming what he tried not to become. Ultimately, to the fan servicey moment of real Cap lifting Mjolnir and just walloping Hydra Cap with it. There are some stuff that I wasn't a huge fan of. There's some tonal shifts. Some of the art doesn't always pay off, but overall, I think this is a very, very fun and solid read. And if you enjoy the character of Captain America and haven't read this, you're doing yourself a disservice. So.
Okay. All right. Well, yeah, thanks again for coming on. This has been good.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you very much, man.
Secret Empire is published by Marvel Comics. Support this and all of our shows by joining us on Patreon. Go to patreon.com/deconcomics for more details. You can also help us out by reviewing us on Apple or any other podcast source. Do your shopping at deconstructingcomics.com/Amazon so that we get a percentage of the sale. And share our episodes on your social media. We appreciate your support in bringing Deconstructing Comics, Critiquing Comics, and To the Bat Polls to a larger audience. Help us get higher in podcast rankings by subscribing. It's free and you'll get episodes as soon as they come out. Most any smartphone or tablet comes with a podcast app installed, so if you're not using it yet, try it out. It's the best way to listen to podcasts. But of course, you can always listen to all our episodes at deconstructingcomics.com or on our YouTube channel. Our theme is by J.B. Anderton. If you're looking for some constructive feedback on your comic, send it to us and Mulele and I will critique it on our spin-off podcast, Critiquing Comics. Send it to mail@deconstructingcomics.com. We'll read at least 30 pages of it and critique it on the show. Mulele and I will be here to critique another comic next week. Till then, this is Tim, and thanks for listening to Deconstructing Comics.